All right, US election. Let's bring in my panel. Sky News contributor Kosha Gada, past chair of Parliament's Foreign Affairs Defence Committee, Michael Danby. Well, final stretch is like an elephant's gestation, isn't it? 2+ years or something to get next weekend's election day on Tuesday, their time, obviously Wednesday ours. Donald Trump leading Kamala Harris in the Real Clear Politics average of national polls. Meanwhile, averages from 538 have Trump leading in the Sun Belt states. When it comes to the Rust Belt states, Harris is only ahead in Michigan. Gender, amongst all those other polls too, one of the big splits is gender. We talk about Donald Trump's problem with women, but geez Louise, she's got a big one with men.
She does. So the battle of the sexes has been a feature increasingly since Trump entered the arena in the U.S., and it's no different this time. That's definitely going to be one of the headlines coming out of the results next week. But the sub-headlines are interesting. I think, as you mentioned, she is actually not doing better with women than Biden. That was one thing a lot of people hypothesized would happen. That hasn't happened as the first female candidate.
Surprise, surprise, we don't vote for a woman candidate just because she's a woman.
And they keep thinking it is insulting. They keep thinking it would happen. It didn't happen for Hillary. It didn't really happen for her. But the second thing is more interesting, where Trump has really been closing in and winning men, and especially young men, 18 to 34-year-olds, in a way that hasn't happened. I think that's a function of him, but it's also a function of just the culture, where the pendulum has swung too much maybe in the other direction against men, anti-male, and there's a backlash brewing. So where this all nets out remains to be seen, but I think it is an interesting shift for the Republican Party.
His son Barron has been giving him a lot of good advice about going on podcasts that appeal to young men.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was at the gym this morning, and one of the guys who's absolutely not political said he listened to the entire 3-hour
of Joe
Rogan podcast and Trump, which I thought was really interesting because not particularly engaged person, loves Rogan, and said, I think Trump was better than I thought.
Yes, 20 million viewers.
Peter, than the stupid comedian who made an anti-Latino joke at the beginning of the Madison Square Garden rally because, I mean, the irony is that young or Latina men and young black men in the barbershop have like a 20-point difference from where they were previously. They may be the ones who win this election for him.
Did you think it was a pro-Nazi rally? Did that come front of mind to you?
Come on, please. It's just embarrassing. Not at the same place. People were from all diverse backgrounds. Trump may be wrong. He may be vulgar. You can disagree with him. That's all normal. But, like calling everyone a Nazi, what it does is it devalues that term and it makes people yawn.
Yeah. And, of course, he made Jerusalem the capital of Israel.
And his daughter converted to Judaism. I mean, please. Yeah. I mean...
Talk to me about Washington Post, this fracas that's gone on with the newspaper. What's happened?
So for the first time in 30+ years, the Washington Post decided not to endorse anybody, which is kind of a veiled way of saying we're not endorsing Kamala, because every single election they've always voted or endorsed for the Democrat candidate.
Right.
And it doesn't really matter in terms of voters at this point, because newspapers have diminishing relevance, and the swing state voter worrying about their economic conditions doesn't really care about the Washington Post editorial board. But where it is significant is the symbolism of it, because it's owned by Jeff Bezos. He had tangled with Trump in the past during the administration, but for him to do this, whether it's a preference cascade emanating out of Elon Musk joining up with him, and other billionaires in Silicon Valley are breaking free of the mold that they'd been captured by on the left, or whether it's something else that he sees the writing on the wall possibly about the results next week. It's interesting.
He's trying to get out from under. I think he's...
Could be that as well.
He thinks Trump's going to win, and he doesn't want to have a fight with him if he is president.
Could be self-preservation. He's in the space race. Blue Origin is one of his companies versus Elon Musk's one. So who knows? There's many things, but it's a big deal for that.
Do you think we're going to see more of that in the next couple of days before Tuesday? More people sort of hedge their bets thinking that Trump might get there?
I think that's happening, but the key thing is what's happening in the swing state. The interesting thing for me is that the young black men and young Latina men, and I think also the fact that there are more Republicans registered and more Republicans doing early voting. I still think the Democrats have a good shot in Pennsylvania. The question is, can you win sufficient electoral college votes to win the presidency without Pennsylvania?
Just quickly, it's not a feature of their system, early voting in postals like it is here, but we are seeing some pretty interesting early results.
They've pushed to do that, and Republicans have always avoided it and shunned it. This time, they've really focused on it, and that is going to make a bigger difference, more than endorsements, more than the comedian, more than anything else, because Republicans are actually ahead in the Sun Belt states. It's never happened. That's a tectonic plate shift, and they're behind in Pennsylvania, but by less. So it's very interesting if they win or at least lose by less in the early vote category, they're coming into a very strong position because they typically do very well on election day.
Okay, the clock's on me. Trump, Kamala Harris, Tuesday night. Who?
I think Trump is going to scrape in.
I think Trump will actually win by a bigger margin than we think.
I think it's Trump too, I have to say.